One better than the other.
And he's a classy looking man, so we can't not have him on camera, right? So, sorry, that's it. So, we know each other fairly well, and I just want to show you, I quite enjoy spending time with Rohan, apart from the fact we have a board meeting on Tuesday, and you might think this is just my sermon notes from a regular Sunday, but this is actually the board meeting papers that we have to read for this week. So outside of that, I really enjoy the time I get to spend with Rohan, the amount of stuff that he says we've got to read. But people here don't know you, so can you share a little bit about your life, a little bit about your background, and then also lead into why you love working for Lutheran Community Care and what inspires you at work?
All right. Well,
Do I need this? Yes, I do. Okay.
All right.
What was that?
A really broad question, and I tend to go off track a fair bit, so pull me back, Chris, where I need. I've forgotten your initial question.
Tell us about yourself.
About me. So, well, I'm 42. I'm married to Jules. We have a daughter, Sophie. Unfortunately, the girls couldn't be here this morning. What else? I live at Belair. I went to school in Warradale Primary School actually. Then I went to Emmanuel College, and I guess that's where my association with the Lutheran Church began. Interestingly, in my family, you did one of two things. So you either became an accountant or you became a teacher. And I ended up doing both, interestingly. So I started with teaching, and then while I was teaching, I actually studied accounting. And it was at Emmanuel where it all happened for me. So I sort of go back to Emmanuel College as a place where my life really my professional life really evolved effectively. And reflecting back, it was within that scaffolding of a Christian structure, of faith background that I think allowed me to explore who I wanted to be and who I felt I needed to be. And it's really interesting to look back, and I feel that it was there that I was allowed to develop. And I studied my MBA while I was teaching at Emmanuel. So recess and lunchtime, I'm locked in my classroom studying, reading lecture notes and the sort. I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. All I knew was that, well, I love teaching, but it didn't quite feel like this is all I wanted to do in life. And part of that exploring was, I've completed my MBA, I left Emmanuel as a teacher, and I went off and worked for KPMG in the big bad corporate world for a while as a company auditor. So, I walked in every day being hated wherever I went, being an auditor. But, and that, I kind of got sick of that, to be honest, walking in and not really being welcome. And I think that was probably the catalyst for me wanting to leave KPMG, to be quite frank. But I gained some really valuable skills, and I knew that I would be able to, I had it in my head that to understand business and the corporate world, understanding the numbers and the figures was a great way to go. So that's where I learned that. And I was always on this journey to find what I really, really wanted to do. And my passion for education, my passion for business, it led to starting a consultancy organisation within education. So I started my own consultancy practice and business, and we ended up growing to a fairly large organisation. The organisation was running for about 7 years, after which I had an opportunity to sell it to an interstate organisation. How it worked was basically Adelaide's very conservative education sector, so we were doing a lot more work in Sydney and Melbourne, quite frankly, and I didn't want to leave Adelaide. So I ended up selling my business to the Good Education Group in Melbourne, who are carrying on that work under a different name. And then I found myself thinking, well, what do I want to do? And then it was, again, reflecting back on my time at Emmanuel, where I actually had the chance to teach social justice, Christian studies, and again, I reflected back over my time teaching, and I had spent a lot of time developing community service programs for students, and I'm really passionate about helping young people understand the need to give back to the community, the need to contribute to the society that they're entering into, the community that they're entering into, building awareness of the needs within our society, within community. And it was through that I thought, well, I think I'd really like to work for a community services organisation. So in that, I ended up, through my business, had developed some links with other organisations and the sort, and I ended up doing some consulting work in the field, and then went to work for another organisation, the Hessel Group, fairly short time, and I found some of the practices within even a community services organisation to be confronting, to be honest. When the opportunity came up for Lutheran Community Care and the role, it was quite bizarre how it came about to me, and I actually remember where I was when I got a phone call, and I was driving down King William Street looking for a coffee shop, as you do, Thursday morning. Felt like a coffee, mid-morning. You know, the life of a consultant's pretty good. You can kind of do whatever you like, cruise around, do whatever you feel like. And I got a phone call, and someone said, "Have you seen this advertisement for Lutheran Community Care?" No, I haven't. And they said, "Go and have a look at it." So I had a look at it, advertising for the role, Executive Director, Lutheran Community Care. I thought, do I, don't I? And they said, you know, call back if you've still got some interest. And I remember pulling the car over, and again, I talk, and I know Percy talks about it as well. This organisation was a real calling for me. It really called out to me. And I pulled over and I thought about it, and I prayed. And the rest is history. I went through discussions with the recruiter, then into the interview process, and at every stage I felt welcomed, comforted, and this is what I'm really meant to be doing. This is where I need to be. You know, this is where I need to serve. And it was through that process that I ended up at Lutheran Community Care.
Talk to us a little bit about early days at Lutheran Community Care, how that's been. I've heard you talk about it before, but people here wouldn't have. Some of those key things that really affirmed that for you when you were just starting in the role.
Yeah, I mean, look, everyone saw the video of Brad up there before, and that's a story that I think that'll sit with me for the rest of my life, to be frank. But it was on my second day that I was being taken on a site tour out to our Living Skills Centre at Peachy Place up in Davron Park, not far from here. I met the site manager, Kevin. Kevin took me for a tour. Kevin's a larger-than-life sort of character, and he's wonderful. And he took me on his driving tour, showed me Jimmy Barnes' old house where he grew up, and showing me, you know, the poverty cycle, and talking to me about the poverty cycle. And it was wonderful hearing at a grassroots level from somebody who's so deeply entrenched in that community that is so deeply disadvantaged, and listening to him speak and his passion. We finally got back to Peachy Place, and he said, right, well, I'm going to go sort out lunch now. I'm going to leave you with Brad. Brad's the young man you saw up on the video before, and Brad's going to take you around and show you his garden. All right, great. And there's this magnificent garden out the back of Peachy Place. And, you know, the Burundian community grow their crops out the back, and there's all these fresh fruits, vegetables, herbs being grown. It's beautiful. And Brad's taking me around, he's got a story to tell, I can tell that. But who am I, a Johnny-come-lately, trying to ask him about his story? So I wasn't going to go there. But he's taking me around with such great pride, And I'm in awe of this garden. It's just absolutely magnificent. And he's giving me eggplant, and he's giving me zucchinis, and I'm not knowing how to carry everything, and just being humbled by the entire experience. But he just stops me midway, and he just turns to me and he goes, it was just as frank and honest as this, and he said, if it wasn't for this place, I'd be dead. I didn't quite know what to say to that, you know, and he said, if I hadn't have found Peachy Place, Lutheran Community Care, I'd be dead. I just wouldn't be here. And I think it's moments like that, and of course the conversation went on, but it's moments like that that really struck me why I've been called here to serve, and the enormity of the work that we do at Lutheran Community Care. That's just one story, and that was on my second day, you know. And this is an organisation that's 50 years rich. Can you just imagine the stories that this organisation has to tell about human survival, love, faith, community? You know, that's just one story. And I use that as inspiration on a daily basis. When, you know, sitting at Sefton Park, we get caught in risk, compliance, policy, strategy. But I use stories like that to ground me and pull me back out of that corporate mindset. And I unashamedly say, Percy and I say all the time, we unashamedly have to be corporate in the way we approach dealing with the organisation. Because if we don't, we won't be here tomorrow. And that's just the reality of things. We have to bring a corporate, business-minded approach. But who said you can't be corporate with a conscience, with a heart, and a love for faith and Jesus? Why can't you do both? And, yeah.
Thanks. Question then on, you spoke about Brad, and we're talking about the wintry spring appeal. Can you talk a bit about how the winter appeals been going, now wrapped up pretty much, but also what that winter appeal means in real terms for what's going on out on the ground?
Yeah, okay, good question. So we've actually, I guess, celebrated at Lutheran Community Care. Is it our highest winter appeal ever, Perce, or is that just the last 4 years ever, right? So the wonderful thing about that is, of course, we celebrate the generosity of the community and our connection to congregations and all that. It's wonderful. But what it symbolises is something more powerful than the money we've actually collected. And I'll talk about where that money goes after. But I think what it actually symbolises is that we as an organisation are more connected to congregations than ever. So in the landscape of an evolving community services sector where we are needing to grow, we are needing to share the message of who we are, we're still maintaining our connection to congregations in the church. Now, I won't name other organisations today, but I think you'll know the organisations that I'm talking about. A lot of them are slowly but surely losing their connection to the church. Unashamedly, on their behalf. I've got other sector CEOs who are saying, you know, it'd be much easier, for a different reason we are incorporating, but we are still a department of the church at the moment. But I've got other sector CEOs saying, why are you still a department of the church? Why do you still allow the church to have its say, its input into our strategy and our direction and our growth? But what it does is it's that grounding to faith, I think, that keeps us all about community, all about love, and all about our clients. But so ultimately, the winter appeal, we've had a record appeal this year. It's been a super cold and wet winter. That money that we raise through appeals, donations, your generosity, it all goes into what we call discretionary funding. So, yes, we receive state funding. Yes, we receive federal funding for various programs. We run, what is it, 19 programs? Yeah, about 19 different programs, and they're all funded differently. DHS, DSS, different government departments. However, when you get funding from a government, whether it's state or federal, it's very explicit in terms of how you equip that money. So how you use that money, very, very bound. We can't take money out of foster care because we're doing really well in foster care services and say, well, do you know what? Our emergency relief efforts, they're running in deficit. Why can't we just take money from there and put it into emergency relief? No, we can't do that. We can't just take money from one pot and shift it to another. The only way we can do that is when we, through appeals, the fundraising ball that you heard a little bit about before, discretionary income streams the only way that we can actually use money in a discretionary fashion, ultimately.
Yeah. So this church connection, so that's part of what I do as well, just so that you know it. As we talk about this at mission support team level quite a lot, about the fact that we want to be working together. So some of what I do is linked in, and so you may hear from time to time, I'm at Lutheran Community Care sites, and when I do so, I'm at Rohan and Percy and other leadership team members' discretion to serve both the congregation and Lutheran Community Care. Something you should know, 2 years ago, roundabouts, we talked at leadership team level about the importance of our church tithing towards community. So giving beyond ourselves to other organisations. We're not yet there financially, but we're certainly there in terms of people. So just so you know, just so that you're aware, Leanne works for Lutheran Community Care, Percy works for Lutheran Community Care, I volunteer, Dean volunteers, Kathy Saville volunteers, I think, have I missed anyone else? Stephen writes songs. So we're basically, as a congregation, pretty much in terms of our people, in terms of giving life away to other places. And so that's something incredible, and that's just part of who you are, and that we're supported to do that, and that's a wonderful thing. Something I wanted to ask you about is some of the changes that are happening and some of the things that are before you. Where are you looking to make a difference next or now, or what's new for the difference that we're seeking to make, and the difference that are what we're doing as churches supporting Lutheran Community Care?
So in terms of program growth, well look, we've got our 3 flagship areas. Well, yeah, look, basically we've got 3 flagship programs, and that would be foster care, homelessness. We work out of Southern Generic Homelessness and Housing, and then probably our work up in Central Australia. Now, Central Australia is a combination of an IFS program, Intensive Family Support Services, and emergency relief efforts. We do financial counselling up there. We run families and wellbeing programs. We also have an op shop up in Central Australia. So a lot of that work is funded. However, it's, again, probably reiterating what I said before, the money from our winter appeal, donations from congregations, any discretionary income streams that we're looking to secure funding from will go into the vast majority. Would you say emergency relief, Pez? Yeah. Most of it would go into our emergency relief programs. And what people don't really quite understand is that we run those programs at a significant deficit. Your money is propping those programs up. But the harsh reality of it is, it's still not enough. Those programs are still running at deficit. So we as an organisation, in our new strategic plan, to address that, we've identified the need to increase discretionary income streams. So we've got Amelia here today. So Amelia's in our communications and marketing team. She heads that up. And what we're looking to do is grow brand. We're looking to increase our reach into the community, beyond just the church, but we're looking now into the corporate sector. We're looking to tap into organisations' corporate social responsibility. I remember when I had my organisation, I felt the need to give back to the community we were in, and my chosen charity at the time was the Little Heroes Foundation. So even today, we've got a very good relationship with the Little Heroes Foundation. Those relationships stay with you as you move, which is lovely. However, I remember how I felt as a business, so why wouldn't other businesses now feel that, now that we need it? You know? So we're going to the bigger guys and saying, unashamedly, come on, you've got to help us here. You've got to contribute. You've got to give back to the community that supports you and supports, you know. I heard someone say, just I think a couple of weeks ago, there are so many people that are just one paycheck away from being homeless. And it's quite incredible if you think about it. Homelessness isn't something that just happens to people who don't come from or have a lot of money. Anybody can be close to homelessness and in need of our service and support. So, you know, it's talking to organisations about their commitment to community. So we're looking to grow discretionary income streams, really.
I've got some questions regarding the scripture passage in just a moment, but first, there's a video on the next slide. This video is incredible. The story, the lady in it is absolutely amazing. So, Dee, if you can go to the next slide, there's a video there for us.
I never wanted to have a baby of my own. My clock didn't tick. If I saw babies and or friends had babies, I'd hold them because it was the polite thing to do. Not because I have this overwhelming urge to hold a baby. I just knew that if a baby needs to be loved, that I could love them, or a child, or any child in this world. We signed up with Lutheran Community Care as foster carers, and we'd done all the training, we got through everything, we were approved, and I was sitting around at work and I got a phone call from the placement worker. She said to me, is there any chance that you could take a placement tonight? And I'm like, oh, okay, let me look at my calendar. And I looked at my calendar and I went, oh, I've got tomorrow off, and yeah, that would be fine. And I said, oh, could I get a few details? And they said, oh, you know, it's a baby. And I went, a baby? I screamed. And apparently everybody in the office heard me scream down the phone. We had registered to take babies. It wasn't exactly what I was, expecting. We were looking at maybe long-term 4 or 5-year-old, but we were ready to take any child that needed a place to have a home for as long as they needed. When I was born, there'd been an extended period of time where there was not a connection between my mum and my grandfather, and he found out that I had been born, and he came in and he looked at me and he held me in his arms and he said, whatever my granddaughter needs, I will provide it for her. My grandparents took a really active role in the care of myself and my brother, and particularly of me. Every school holidays, every weekend. My grandmother, it was all about jumping in puddles and collecting shells on the beach and delighting in making sand castles and waiting for hours until the waves came in and knocked them down, and cooking in the kitchen and, picking fruit off the trees. She just indulged in us as children, making us feel like we were the whole world. She would sit with us for hours and read. And we had lots of doubts. I didn't know if I was going to be a very good mom, and I think that's a normal feeling for every parent. I doubted whether or not I could juggle work and parenting. I think my biggest doubt was just never having parented a little person. Yeah. Having to learn all the bits and pieces. We had a cranky little one. It was drooling all over the place like a boxer dog. A bit of a temperature and some running poos to add it all in. So I raced her down to the doctors, she's coming down with a fever, and the GP's like, looks like she's cutting a tooth. And I'm like, oh, okay, right. So that's what that looks like. And literally a day later, this little tooth appeared, you know. There's things that you just don't know. Overwhelmingly though, I knew I had a good support network around me, good friends and connections, and I picked absolutely the right service provider to walk that journey with us, that would advocate for us, would talk through, believe in us and walk the journey with us. The team at MLCC were amazing, just answering all my stupid questions. All I can say is I have a lot of stupid questions, and just saying like they're not stupid, like they're real. Having all those different resources and having people just connect me to what I needed to know when I needed to know it, and having them on hand was just wonderful. And just tell you you're getting it right. Our little one delights when our caseworker walks through the door. She just can't wait to sit down and draw a picture with her and have a cup of tea. We've got amazing people that walk alongside us. They've all felt like a part of our family. This year, they sent Mother's Day cards out to all the carers saying thank you for everything that you do, and I think that's pretty amazing. They are a village in themselves, and when you open the door, you're welcomed into that village and you're a part of it. When the little one came to us, it was about an hour later, I think, from that first phone call that they arrived in our house, and there was this little bright-eyed, chubby-cheeked little girl. I said, can I hold her? You know, because it's the first time we've ever had a placement, and I'm like, I don't know how this works. Is there meant to be a plan here? And they said, of course you can, and handed her over, and she was just smiling and happy. And they said, are you okay to take her into hospital? I said, yeah, that's fine. And we got to the hospital, and it was less than 3 hours. They were trying to do some assessments, and she turned around to me with her arms open, and she said, Mother. And that's the moment I figured out I had to cancel my appointments for Wednesday, Thursday and Friday because this little girl had decided that I was going to be her person, her mama. This unconditional love for a child that you've never met. And I wanted to be the person that took her to every single appointment. I wanted her to know I was there to hold her hand and hug her and cuddle her to sleep. Yeah, I was going to be her rock. The most important thing for any child is that they have a home and that they have a place where they know they belong, and a place where they are loved and where people believe in them. For our little one, she is so sassy and she is so spirited, and some days I say she's going to be either the next Lady Gaga or the next Prime Minister. I'm just not quite sure who. I want her to have every opportunity that she can to be who she's meant to be, and for her to feel safe and loved. I want her to dance in the rain and jump in the puddles and sing at the top of her voice from the top of a mountain. Yeah.
It's incredible. There are incredible people like that everywhere. Just so that you know, Leanne, who I'm not sure, do we call you a member yet? You like just run things and lead things in our church. She signed up. So Leanne and her husband Matt are going through the process also of becoming foster carers. Leanne and Matt are exceptional people. Matt won't hear a bar of it if you say that he's an exceptional person, but he is. He just goes, why not? Why not ask Matt about being a foster dad? And he's like, I have to be the world's best dad. I just have to be a good dad. I just have to be better than what they're getting. Matt's a great dad. Matt and Leanne will do an amazing job. So that's worth you knowing, and when that day comes, we'll pray for them up in front here when that day comes. bit hard after that, but I'm going to change focus a little bit. The Bible passage that we had before, Jesus chooses his 12 disciples, and they changed the world after Jesus' death and resurrection. What are the qualities that you think are in the people who are making a difference in the world?
Well, for me, leadership is all about servant leadership. That's certainly how we operate at Lutheran Community Care. I see all our staff as leaders, all of them, everybody. Servant leadership is a quality that I think defines how we do what we do. So ultimate servant leader, obviously Jesus. None of us will ever be as perfect as Jesus, but what a wonderful model to look up and aspire towards being within our service, within our leadership. When I look at world leaders, it's having a heart, a connection to what you do, understanding why you do what you do. For me, I think the types of leaders that I often look up to would be inspired by faith, love and connectedness to their world, what's happening within their world, and understanding how they can actually make a difference.
Question linked with that, something that we've spoken about just recently is about the importance of trust, and that you need to be able to trust, particularly the people that you work with. And Jesus trusted his people, and you spoke about the high level of trust that you have in your team that you work with.
Yep.
What do you think is the defining factor of trust, and how do you link that in? And can you share a little bit about why the disposition of trust that you operate on?
Well, I can only talk from my own perspective and from my position, and so what Chris is talking about is my team being the executive team. So it's a team of about 6 of us who are charged with or blessed with the opportunity to lead this wonderful organisation. And the conversation we were having, Chris, which I think you're referring to, is that an essential quality of anybody that is within my team is trust. So if somebody were to lose my trust, I would find it very difficult to work with that person. So for me, trust is about understanding and believing that somebody can do what they need to do for the organisation. I'm not about micromanagement. I never micromanage my team. I believe in surrounding myself with people better than I am at doing various bits and pieces and tasks. So we quite often in senior leadership, as I know Chris has explained to me that there are many of you here are in leadership roles also. We talk about getting in the foxhole with someone. When things go wrong, or when things become challenging, you want people around you who you can trust to work with and find solutions. So that's a critical part. But another part of that is I see my role within my team as supporting everybody within my team. Again, it comes back to servant leadership. How can I help you do what you need to do? How can I better support you? How can I better resource you to do what I need you to do, or what we need you to do as an organisation?
A big part of why I asked Rohan to share from that perspective is because when Rohan and I were talking about this during the week, and I didn't say this to Rohan at the time, and I'm not saying this just to pump up his tyres or to make him look good in front of you or anything like that. But I want you to understand this when it comes to your faith and your relationship with Jesus. Is that's, I believe, the disposition Jesus has towards us. Is that Jesus trusts you, Jesus wants to work with you, Jesus wants to get in the foxhole with you when things aren't going well. And Jesus knows that you're going to be able to do the things that you need to do. And Jesus doesn't micromanage you. Jesus doesn't say, you have to get all these little things right. Jesus is interested in the big picture of your life, and Jesus wants to serve you, but he wants you to lead where you're responsible. And so that's a big part of, and that's a shift that I've had in my faith probably over the last 5 years. So when Rohan articulated it with me during the week, quite unprompted, I'm like, well, I wanted that to be shared with you today, because I think that's a fantastic insight. We're pushing time, but is there anything that is on your mind or on your heart that you would like to mention while you're here and while you're with us?
No, nothing more than...
And Percy's heading over there. I'm going to call Percy over here in a minute. But...
Right. Nothing beyond, I love doing what we're doing today. I love not sitting on stage and talking, but coming out to congregations. You know, again, it comes back to that second day where I went out to Peachy Place and we see our work in action. Coming out to congregations, hearing stories from you. Everybody has their stories to contribute, and that's what helps us keep grounded as an organisation. And I think that's what connects us to congregations, is that we share our faith, we share our love, and our belief that we need to give back to the community. So thank you for having me here. I love coming out.
The last thing I'll say to you as a congregation, say to us, is always keep in mind, and I know you're always doing this anyway, but always keep in mind, whether it's Lutheran Community Care or anywhere else, how can I live a generous life? How can I live giving what God has given me? Just as Rowan's talked about, that make a difference desire. Lutheran Community Care are always crying out for financial resources, but they're also always crying out for volunteers. Not because of them, not because they want it for themselves, but because they know that they've been given an opportunity to make a difference, and they want to make the most of that opportunity. And you've been given opportunities wherever you are to make a difference as well. I'm going to ask Percy, Leanne, Dee, if you can come forward as well. Heather, you've done some volunteering for LCC as well up at Ingle Farm. If you, anyone, so Dee, if you can come up, we're going to pray for you who are involved in LCC. You can say, see it.
I wasn't warned of this.
No, you weren't warned of this. No.
Why does Amelia get to sit down there?
Oh, Amelia, sorry, Amelia, I missed you. I'm sorry. Should really pray for Jeremy because he's marrying Amelia. Jeremy will hear all about what Amelia's up to all the time, I'm sure. So we're going to pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for Lutheran Community Care, and thank you for the work that they do. Thank you that they're an extension of us. We thank you for all the charity organisations that are making a difference. Father, we ask that you would bless Rowan's leadership, bless his team, bless all the staff and volunteers. We ask that you would continue to give them courage to do what's right even when things are difficult. We ask for peace in their homes and families. We ask that they would be able to strengthen and support their families. Father, we pray for those who are suffering. We pray for those who are hungry, who are homeless. We pray for children who need a home. We pray for parents and potential foster carers who could open their homes. We pray for all foster parents. Father, in our circumstances, we ask that you continue to give us a generous heart, a heart that looks out for others just as you look out for us. Always giving, always loving, always serving. So we ask that you would bless everyone involved in LCC and bless all of us this day. We pray in Jesus' name.